What's up, everyone? I'm Anime Yokage, and welcome to my channel. I'm here to talk about all the latest anime news, content, and everything in between. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first thing getting into the story, what we're seeing is Hikari and Uraume facing off. Without hesitation, Uraume launches Frost Calm, which I guess the best way you can explain it is her turning curse energy into a force of nature, and by doing so, anything she touches instantly turns to ice to the absolute core. But we all know my boy Hikari doesn't matter at all. He gets caught off guard and Uraume launches a strike on the frozen right arm. It shatters into a million pieces. With Hikari missing his whole right arm, Uraume says, "Thanks for playing," as if she's already won. We all know that is very far from the truth. Without missing a beat, Hikari regenerates his right arm and slams into Uraume's face.
What?
And takes her through an express trip straight through a high-rise. This is the kind of stuff I absolutely love to see because I love Hikari's brute strength, muscle through any situation, facing off an actual force of nature. As you can see right over here, Uraume is actually preparing some kind of ice lance. We'll see what she does with that. So she times 10 the size of this ice lance, and she's getting ready to fire it straight at Hikari. But I'm not sure this is an external or an internal monologue, but she is stating that Hikari's regeneration surpasses Sukuna's and Gojo's.
Damn.
Which I'm sure I don't need to tell you is incredibly impressive, especially for someone who's only ranked as a grade 1 sorcerer, because I think everyone's sleeping on Hikari. I know that his technique is very simple. I mean, it's not simple at all when you think about the domain, but it's very simple in the fact that Hikari get hurt, Hikari regenerate. Can't kill him. Unkillable. She manages to launch that ice lance straight through Hikari's side, which we all know doesn't matter. We all know that doesn't affect him. He runs straight through it without even getting taken back for a second. After Hikari speed blitzes through the attack, he lands a kick right on Uraume's side, which I'm pretty sure Uraume let him do it so she could try and catch his leg and perform another freezing. I'm not sure if she thought that the first one was a fluke, but same exact thing happens. To make sure that he doesn't lose his dunks, though, he goes ahead and breaks off his leg before it can reach his sneakers. Can't ruin the fit. So Hikari slips off the kicks, breaks off his leg, and grows it back all within one instance to perform a drop kick right to Uraume's face. As you can see right here. Dude absolutely hates having limbs. And on top of that, I think the only thing that's actually taking damage besides Uraume is Hikari's outfit. To cope with this complete ass beating, Uraume pulls out her psychology degree to try and evaluate Hikari.
Why?
Stating that he isn't like other people and he's not afraid of being alone, so he gets uninvited from humanity, essentially. Now she's going to use the full extent of her power because she doesn't see him as human anymore. I know it's talking about Hikari not being afraid to sacrifice his humanity and puts his body on the line. I guess that's what she's talking about. But that's a hell of an evaluation for taking 2 hits. She acts like they're roommates now because he threw her through a building and kicked her. I get it, his fighting style is not like other people's, but it's a fighting style. It's not an abandonment of his humanity. He actually reflects at that moment on Yuta saying something along those lines or of that nature. And apparently, Hikari just gets roasted by everybody.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm getting cooked.
Hikari then mocks Uraume and says since he's getting so hyped up, why didn't she bring him a cold one? I love how this fight is starting out, and it's a perfect matchup between the two. This fight may not be the main fight, but it definitely has my interest. I can't wait to see what happens going forward. Especially since it's the first time that we've actually seen Uraume in a fight and not just using one attack and getting out of there, like she did against Yuji and Maki. Now, let's head back to the courtroom.
You are about to enter the courtroom.
I know we were all waiting to see if Higuruma could pull Sukuna into his domain, and it's way more intense than I thought it was going to be. But honestly, not for long. You'll see. So the way Higuruma is doing this is he's actually continuing the case against Yuji by Judge Man, but now he's pulling in Sukuna as a co-defendant. This is the case where Yuji is blamed of mass murder at the Shibuya incident, but Higuruma, and we all know that it was Sukuna. So we can all sit pretty confident right now that he would be the one that would get charged, right? Oddly enough, but not to our surprise, Sukuna is sitting cool as ever and doesn't care whatsoever. He tells Higuruma, just get on with it. He doesn't have all day. The hearing proceeds with Higuruma confirming that Judge Man's evidence is against Sukuna inhabiting Yuji's body at the time of the incident, as the only way that the Shibuya incident was even made possible was by Sukuna's cursed energy output and techniques. At that point, Yuji had no way of outputting that much cursed energy and doing that much damage to a city block, much less a city like that. Internally, we see that Higuruma is actually worried about the verdict coming from Judge Man, because he's not sure if Judge Man will take into account something that he's not accounting for. We have to remember that Higuruma is not actually in control of Judge Man. He can only simply summon him and sway him, possibly. This is like a real courtroom, and Higuruma can only make a case against his opponent and hope that Judge Man sees it the same way. I'm not sure if this is the right way to put it, but Judge Man is kind of like a manifestation of cursed energy turning into a wild card Shikigami. There's no telling what kind of verdict or outcome will happen whenever Judge Man gets summoned. I guess that condition is something that makes the sentencing so powerful. The fact whether it's left up to chance if it'll actually succeed or not. As a Hunter x Hunter fan, this is one of the reasons I absolutely love cursed energy techniques, because the more conditions that you put on the actual technique, the more powerful that it can become. The amount and the severity of condition that is put upon the technique will either heighten or lower its potency. This ultimately leads to a better storyline and a better plot. Back to the courtroom. So some of the things that Higuruma is actually worried that Judge Man will take into consideration is that Sukuna is not of sound mind, or Sukuna has a condition of a deteriorating mind. This would make it to where if someone were to plead insanity in a case or something, it would be completely thrown out as they can't be held accountable. I'm sure I don't have to tell you this, but that would favor Sukuna. And if this case were thrown out and the domain were to break with Sukuna not getting anything against him, the boys would get murked immediately. The dude can cut reality now. Remember how I told you that Sukuna is getting sick of being there already? Well, that works in your boy's favor, because now you're going to piss Judge Man off. So again, like an absolute Chad, Sukuna tells Higuruma and Judge Man to hurry it up. He states he already knows how this technique works from being inside Yuji's body when he got pulled into it, and he doesn't care to hang around in it. And I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure if you mock Judge Man, that's all immediate sentencing. Immediate sentencing. I mean, absolutely merciless. So of course Sukuna is found guilty, and his punishment is confiscation and the death penalty. We did it, boys! But if I had to guess, I think that Sukuna actually wanted the death penalty because he wanted the executioner's sword to come out. Sukuna, as we know it, is all about testing strength and seeing the bounds of cursed energy. Now that I think about it, he may not just want to see it, he may want to steal it. I have no idea how he would do that, but you look me in the eyes and tell me that Sukuna absolutely has no way of doing that. We've seen him use other cursed techniques, and I think it's in the general consensus that he has some way of copying or stealing cursed techniques in some way or manner. I think Sukuna was aware that he get the death penalty, and that's why he wanted to speed it up. There's no point in hearing it out if you know what the sentencing is going to be. And I think he maybe wanted to catch them off guard with not having a plan and rushing them. It doesn't seem like the one-hit kill sword is much of a threat to him either then. So, we got Judge Man to convict Sukuna, but that's very far from meaning that Sukuna is actually beaten. Come on. All is seemingly going to plan as the domain breaks and all three parties fall to the ground. Higuruma is granted the gavel, which then turns into the executioner's sword. You can also see in the next panel that the cavalry is coming in with Kusakabe, Choso, and Ino. I'm not sure how much power or what they can do at this point, but I'd rather have more than less. So why not? That's right. The next thing that we see in the panel is a big, black, ominous panel with nothing but the words, "Do you have a death wish, Higuruma?" Now, I don't know exactly who's talking to Higuruma at that point. Probably Sukuna. I know that he has some weird way of reaching into people's spirit planes. We've seen him do it before, and I don't know if that's just for, cinematic effect or whatever, but it could be Sukuna. Maybe it could be, I don't know, Judge Man, possibly? Regardless, it's creepy. This obviously makes Higuruma shudder a little bit. We also have to remember that Higuruma is not a Jujutsu sorcerer. He is simply someone who is granted his powers for the culling game. All this is brand new to him. He may have techniques, but he's never been trained. Imagine you're a normal dude and all of a sudden in a split second, you enter the world of JJK. He's doing pretty well considering that. As they fall to the ground, Sukuna commences his technique of slashes. The consensus in the community is that Judge Man pulled a big brain move and confiscated his cursed tool, the Vajra tool, and did not take away his slashing technique. And before we know it, Kusakabe and Higuruma are getting carved like a turkey. I prefer ham. But honestly, if you look at this, the cuts don't seem overwhelmingly deep. Kind of like whenever Yuji was tanking cuts from Sukuna whenever he first took over Megumi's body. They were cuts, but they weren't penetrating all the way through. I think maybe Judge Man did try and take the slashing technique, but with Sukuna being overwhelmingly powerful, maybe Judge Man just didn't have what it takes, and he was only able to take the potency of it or a certain portion of it away. That would make sense with a super broken ability like Judge Man, and getting it kind of nerfed to where he doesn't automatically just become one of the most powerful sorcerers around. Because between the new sorcerers, Takaba and Higuruma, got absolutely broken abilities. I could see with Higuruma not strengthening his technique yet with the limited amount of time, that maybe Judge Man actually has a limit. He's cut reality. I only bring this up because Sukuna's cuts got way more devastating as the story has progressed. He was able to cut reality, which allowed him to cut Gojo. And then also after that, transforming back into his original form, he was able to absolutely slash Kashimo to bits, who was literal energy at that point. Leave it to Sukuna to know how to cut energy. Well, the reality slash. I'm ranting. That's all we get for this week, and hopefully next week we can find out if Judge Man dialed in a giant oopsie, or he really just couldn't pull off the whole shebang. Also, we may get to find out if Hikari gets to rejoin humanity. Only if Uraume Freud allows it. Thank you all so much for tuning in to my first chapter review. Hopefully I can keep a timely schedule between all the different animes I want to cover in the future, and I'm not giving too much time in between and giving you guys the content that you want. Hopefully I can earn your views and become one of your go-to channels for anime content. Until next time.